Hello and welcome to Polity with Davina. I've picked a new name. It's going to be a good name to encapsulate talking about politics, celebrating Kamala Harris's fantastic momentum. And her position is Vice President Kamala Harris, presumptive nominee of the Democratic Party, running against former President Donald Trump, with a big message for the American people and a necessary message for the American people, because we've already lived through 4 years of Trump in office, and it was disastrous on many fronts, many under-discussed fronts, such as the manufacturing recession of 2019, as well as the under-discussed impact of Trump's willful mismanagement of the pandemic. Now let's give a quick shout out to the topic of Project 2025, because you can see Trump trying to distance himself from that project today. It's a blueprint for a vastly changed landscape in American politics and in American day-to-day existence. We'll talk about that more shortly, but first, shout out to weirdo Elon Musk. I cracked and paid that dude $8 because he cut me off from my live broadcasting ability to broadcast live to Twitter, because signs came up saying only premium verified accounts can have this function. So I suffered a week of literally shedding tears that I could no longer at least give my voice to this fight to protect democracy. And Elon today has said, oh, it's a slur that's no longer going to be permitted, calling Trump supporters and weird. I was going to say, mostly people have reserved the term weird for Trump and his vice presidential running mate, J.D. Vance, just to call out the weirdness, the antisocialness, the minoritarian nature of platforming abortion bans, platforming depriving women of access to medically necessary care, as well as elective medical decisions for themselves relating to bodily autonomy and family planning decisions, which, by the way, are decisions that women don't usually make entirely by themselves, but are made in consultation with their doctor or trusted confidants or family members, because it's not just young women who don't have any pre-existing family members or pre-existing children who get an abortion. It's women with children whose contraceptive measures have failed, or there's been some break in the process, and they need to avail themselves of a last-ditch family planning decision. Let's go back to Project 2025, because what I want to share with everybody this evening is something I learned from reading the comments section of a January article about Project 2025 with one of its principal authors, Kevin Roberts, not the man who's resigned as Project 2025's head today, but he is the leader of the Heritage Foundation, which is the principal organization backing this so-called conservative blueprint. That Trump tries to say, not me, I'm not the conservative leader they're talking about, but they are. They're trying to institutionalize Trumpism, as it were. They're trying to remake the legislative and administrative landscape in favor of their own interests, which means firing government employees with experience and replacing them with Trump loyalists, or rather shills who will participate in theft, programs of institutionalized theft to transfer wealth to people who have backed Trump. And this is not a partisan transfer. Oh, well, if Trump wins office, then he deserves to transfer American wealth to himself and his cronies. No, this is what happens when you get a criminal in office. So he was stymied in some of his plans in his first term because of the conscience still operating amongst career civil servants, and even his own appointees who heard Donald Trump's ideas to say, dig moats and install alligators and spikes and snakes in pits in order to take the lives of refugees and asylum seekers and even economic migrants who attempted to cross the border, because you can't claim asylum in in America, outside of American borders. It has to be done within American borders. And Republicans have repeatedly clogged up the legal immigration process by voting to deny immigration courts the funds they need to process all those who seek to move here. And which is quite funny because there's so much anti-migrant vitriol from the Republican Party, and specifically from Trump, who uses Hitler-esque levels of vilification towards migrants, and undocumented migrants particularly, because they're also decrying the birth rate. If you hear conservatives like Elon Musk, who's come out as a proud Donald Trump supporter, and he's claimed he's not giving $45 million a month to Trump, as was reported by the Wall Street Journal. Nevertheless, he is giving money to a Trump PAC. So he didn't deny that. I'll stick with the accuracy of the statement. Elon Musk is giving $45 million a month to help elect Trump, because that's what's happening. Elon Musk is essentially Felon Musk, and he wants to stay out of jail. He wants a captured DOJ and a elected president who owes him one. So not only has Trump's little helper, Elon Musk, purchased Twitter for $44 billion and is now saying he views the word weird as a slur and people won't be allowed to use it on his platform that he owns. But Elon Musk is literally donating $45 million a month to some form of super PAC. So Bob's here. Hello, Bob. Bob notes that Trump's name is mentioned, of course, in Project 2025 over 300 times. I'll get back to what I wanted to read out loud, which was a comment from someone after they read an interview with Kevin Roberts, the head of the Heritage Foundation. In reply to a comment that Kevin made, he said people would lose their jobs. The interviewer noted that there are approximately 2 million people employed across the United States in various government agencies. So there's millions of civil servants, and Project 2025 seeks to deploy Schedule F, that is to say, changing the terms of employment for all of the civil service employees, all of the government agency employees, so that they can more easily be fired in favor of hiring Trump loyalists or conservative loyalists who don't have experience in the area. And I wanted to read this comment because it's what it looks like. So Trump did get to do a watered down version of Schedule F, just concentrated on one particular agency. And this man or woman, going by the initials of CRG, commented on the New York Times article. He quoted Kevin Roberts, "People will lose their jobs." While in office, the Trump administration did run a tiny experiment in gutting federal public service. In 2019, most of the 250 employees in my small federal agency were issued an ultimatum: move our families and lives to a new city 1,000 miles away, or quit or be fired. The vast majority of us left. Trump political appointees cheered. My former agency has been mostly rebuilt under conservative leadership and with a dramatically higher percentage of white male staff with much less experience. I watched my agency's century of institutional knowledge on US food and agriculture literally go up in smoke. I hope wealthy heritage patrons don't get to blowtorch their way across the whole federal service sector. So that's great because it's a window. I mean, it's atrocious that happened. Atrocious that the US Food and Agriculture Agency has had their staff with decades of experience all put under duress to quit or be fired, or to move their lives and families 1,000 miles away, literally uproot their whole lives and pull their children out of school, etc., creating the conditions of duress for people to quit. And mostly people did quit. So he or she has stayed and seen what's happened. All of that experience, all of that wealth of stored knowledge, literally set on fire, well, not literally, figuratively set on fire by Trump's actions, and people with experience replaced by people who don't have any experience, who are sycophants, yes men, bootlickers who have their white maleness to recommend them, who uphold a hierarchy that Trump endorses, that is his implicit promise to voters. I will uphold the hierarchy that is your comfort zone, that is your idea of what is normal, that your particular branch of religion might have espoused as doctrine implicitly, that Jesus was white, that his blood is special, and that you are special, and you are up here in the hierarchy because your skin is white like Jesus's skin apparently is, and other people are not worthy of getting these good white-collar government jobs. And their interest in promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion is dangerous and to be despised. Instead of viewing diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts as a worthy background goal of removing the roadblocks to true meritocracy. Yeah, mummy's broadcasting. And to actually let people with skills who merit certain positions to get there, even if there aren't mentors with the same skin color who've been in the roles before to welcome them in. Because the absence of mentors is a big block. But if agencies exclusively looked at the resumes of white people, or they required a university education from certain universities at a time when people of color and Black people were excluded from those universities, then those are roadblocks and impediments to the true use of meritocracy, the true use of letting people with skills move into a position that their talents best suit them for and that America can most benefit from. So all of those racist a-holes who try to claim that DEI weakens America are devaluing or attempting to devalue the truth that removing obstacles to genuine inclusion allows genuine worth to find its place and to find its best place of service. Not only does it harm individuals when racist criteria are the way of the land, but it harms people, it harms American interests overall when people with skills cannot get to the positions that they would do a good job in. Bob says he sent me a TikTok from a creator. Cannon Fodder gave me a little optimism. Haven't got there yet, Bob. Haven't watched it, but I do watch the TikToks you send me eventually, and I do like them all. I still am a little leery of the platform because of the Chinese government extracting data from people who watch or who create content. But it's always this, because I know a lot of people watch TikTok, and I know a lot of young people and even increasingly older people are getting information from TikTok, and it's a vibrant platform on the move and on the rise. But yes, I definitely was thinking more about TikTok after Elon Musk effectively booted me from this platform, albeit temporarily. I just had to swallow my pride, adjust my morals, and consent to giving him $8 a month. At least I picked the monthly pay option rather than the yearly pay option, so that I can just pay for a few months until the election to do my part to help speak out in support of Kamala Harris. As a non-citizen living here, I can't vote, I can't donate, but I can speak, and I can phone bank, I can volunteer my time. So I'm here, and I urge everyone to deputize themselves, to lean into their strengths, to do what they can in support of a stable society, in support of a democracy that holds. Because what is this republic? What is this system of government? A republic if you can keep it. And government has been denigrated. The achievements of government have been denigrated by the right, and their ideas have had significant penetration into the collective American mind because of probably corporate capture, and because they had a lot of passion about their goals. They really, really wanted to wind back the goals, the progress made with regards to civil rights, with regards to workers' rights. They're really keen to create a more dependent underclass of workers who don't have the energy to join unions, who don't have enough confidence in their own thoughts to fight for better working conditions or to advocate for a more equitable distribution of the end products of productivity. They want people who can't plan their family, who can't easily use contraception, who can't take action to terminate a pregnancy if desired, who can't get medical assistance if a miscarriage is occurring and is incomplete and a woman's life is in danger. They are callously seeking to create a dependent underclass that are dependent on their lords and masters in order to create more of this hierarchical lord and master and servant dynamic amongst the wealthy and the not as wealthy in the United States. So the middle class would undergo significant hardship. The media have touched on it, but I'm happy for this idea to get greater traction. Trump's proposed tariffs, he already enacted many tariffs when he was in office. He's proposing enacting more. They would significantly cause inflation in this country, putting a far greater tax burden on the shoulders of the middle class, and using a type of pseudo-populism to show strength. So it would hurt most American people, but it would be a whole, look at me, I'm so strong, I'm getting China. China would, of course, launch retaliatory tariffs against American manufacturers and American exporters, and people would be punished in all sorts of different ways. The agricultural sector, farmers, lost so much money from having trade relationships disrupted when Trump started a tariff war with China and with other trading partners, that they had to be paid $28 billion worth of taxpayer money in subsidies to help them cope with the loss of revenue. And that is a function of Trump failure. So Trump failed with most of his enterprises, with his casinos, with his Trump vodka, Trump steaks, Trump water, etc. The man is not very good at business. He does have a talent for self-marketing, which is actually a very good talent for crooks, grifters, con artists, etc. And it's certainly taken him far. He's performative enough to have had a television show and entrench with a large swathe of the public, a persona as a successful businessman, a persona that we know, if we look closely, to be built on false data, because his data is that he set up a fraudulent university and had to settle a case brought by students of his fake university for $25 million, that he frequently doesn't pay contractors and so makes money off the pain of small business owners who he hurts because they invest their own money in buying resources and materials to build him things, and then he gets his lackeys to negotiate semi-payments. I'll give you $1 out of every $10 that I was contracted to pay you, because I've decided to say, no, I don't really want this anymore, or don't want it in full. The dude has a plethora of con artist tactics to use to squeeze money from people, but not to legitimately produce goods and services for the American people and make profit that way. His profit has been through deception, exploitation, hiring undocumented migrants to his various businesses, and not providing full and prompt payment to those who have been contracted to do to help him with his businesses. So who else do we have? Anybody else today? We have Bob. I say hello to any other people who've tuned in to celebrate the great turnout at the Kamala Harris rally today in Georgia. Georgia is, of course, a purple state, and we now go beyond talking about states in terms of colors. We say that a lot of Republican-led states are discouraged states that have a lot of blue voters who are sane enough to make good political voting choices, but who have been discouraged from believing that their vote could have an impact. They've felt so immersed in the appearance of a red state that they sometimes just haven't felt motivated to get out and vote. And Stacey Abrams showed that could change. She helped organize the vote in Georgia, and we got two Democratic senators in a runoff election in Georgia on January the 5th of 2021, one day before the attack on the Capitol by the Trump-incited mob. And that's a shameful fact to talk about to many Trump supporters. They try and deflect it and make ludicrous comments about the social justice demonstrations with regard to George Floyd's murder being somehow far worse, when January the 6th was a mob attack on the Capitol for the purpose of overthrowing the results of an election, for the purpose of illegally delaying the official proceedings of certifying Joe Biden's election win, to advance the Trump plot to use a multitude of tactics, either have his then Vice President Mike Pence accept alternate elector certificates from different states, the fake elector certificates from people who weren't legally allowed to sign a certificate saying that Donald Trump had won their state, but they were persuaded to do so. Some of them had the intelligence to say, well, we'll just put in a sentence that says this is a conditional certificate if legal challenges to the Joe Biden election results succeed, and then we're the electors signing the certificate. But they knew that it wasn't a valid legal certificate because Joe Biden had won. He'd been pronounced the winner. The votes had been counted. And absent some significant finding, some significant court finding that said, oh, yes, there's all this evidence of wrongdoing, I've only heard of a few cases of voter fraud. And in every instance that I've read about, it's been people voting illegally for Trump, using the identity of a dead parent, or thinking they could get away with voting multiple times in different counties. And it's just been a few voters in the villages who got slaps on the wrist and a few scattered voters in other places. But the point is, very few cases of voter fraud documented, and those that have been documented publicly have turned out to be people voting for Trump illegally in violation of the law, and people who haven't actually suffered significant penalty, in contrast to Black voters who have tried to vote in good faith, have cast a what's it called? Probationary ballot? No. Cast a something ballot. Somebody will remember the term and put it in the comments, but it relates to a ballot that's set aside to be looked at further by election officials. And Crystal Mason in Texas was given a 5-year jail sentence by a Texas judge. Eventually, that sentence was over-appealed, but her life was upended in the interim. And all she did was seek to do her civic duty and vote. She wasn't aware of the fact that she was still on probation for a fraud, a tax avoidance issue that she'd served time for. She wasn't aware that disqualified her from being able to vote, but she didn't appear on the voting rolls. And for that reason, she didn't vote. She just wrote, what's it called? Okay, I'll have to look it up now because it is a little bad of me that I've ballot, not probationary ballot. Starts with P. Maybe if I Google Crystal Mason, I'll find it. At least we can get a quote from her for after she's, because wow, it took till Friday, March the 29th to have her conviction reversed. Texas mother who faced 5 years in prison has illegal voting conviction reversed. Oh, her beautiful family. She's overjoyed after her conviction was reversed Thursday by the Texas Second Court of Appeals. Provisional ballot. There we go. Crystal Mason, a black mother of 3, was on supervised release after serving time for tax fraud when she filled out a provisional ballot in the 2016 election. She said she did not know her status as a felon on release made her ineligible to cast a ballot. So provisional ballot. She didn't even fill out a proper ballot. She was advised. Thank you for letting me know, Jay. Okay. I'll just end the broadcast. I'll say bye-bye. Thank you for tuning in. Oh, I'm back. Okay, but I am going to go shortly anyway. Thank you to anybody who's tuned in. I might just quickly bring up the article about Crystal Mason on the screen, because to me it's potently illustrative of the lengths to which tacit white supremacists will go to deter some people from voting whilst slapping others on the wrist. And I hope everybody remembers the comment that I read from someone in the US Food and Agriculture Agency, whose agency was gutted after Trump forced people to either move or lose their jobs, whether through firing, being fired, or quitting. Forced quit. Okay. So let's have a look. This is Crystal Mason. She's in the center in a black shirt. Imagine having your mother sent to prison. After a while, she was allowed to go to a halfway house, but she should be able to sue them, really. After considering the dispositive issue remanded to us, wrote the judges of the Texas Second Court of Appeals, whether the evidence was sufficient to support Crystal Mason's conviction for illegal voting under the Texas Election Code, we reversed the trial court's judgment and rendered judgment acquitting her, the court said in its opinion. Mason celebrated the court's decision, which she had been waiting for since 2019. This article is written in March 2024. That's how long it took to get a patently, manifestly unjust decision reversed. I'm overjoyed to see my faith rewarded today, Mason said in a statement shared by ACLU of Texas. I was thrown into this fight for voting rights and will keep swinging to ensure no one else has to face what I've endured for over 6 years, a political ploy where minority voting rights are under attack. I've cried and prayed every night for over 6 years straight that I would remain a free Black woman. After Mason was convicted, voting rights activists compared her case to other voter fraud convictions involving white defendants who received more lenient sentences. And the thing is, she filled out a provisional ballot. That is the point of filling something out. If you're not sure, officials aren't sure, there's a question over your right to vote. Provisional ballot, it's kept to the side, and election officials have the chance to go over it and see if something else needs to be verified or if the person just isn't eligible to vote. And that's what she did. And the system worked until she was charged with voting fraud. And then white supremacy or CRT. Now I've forgotten what CRT stands for. That's okay. I'm live broadcasting and I have to look up CRT. Critical race theory. There you go. The idea of critical race theory is that some biases are so institutionalized that people will act in very obviously unjust ways and it won't be obvious to them because their bias is so internalized. Their bias is so crystallized that they cannot tell they're being ridiculous. And I just want people to remember that and remember that this woman endured 6 years of having to fight this court case. Hopefully some lawyers helped her pro bono. This is her family. These are all of the people's lives who would have been affected by their mother being put in jail for casting a provisional vote because her eligibility to vote was under question because she didn't appear on the voting rolls. And yes, so thank you to everyone who's joined me today. resist Project 25 or look it up so that you're able to converse about it. The fact that it involves destroying public education, destroying government departments such as NOAA, so that you don't get data on what the weather's going to be like anymore. If you have the money to subscribe to a weather service, then yes, you're a captive audience, you're a captive market for that service because it won't be free anymore. Various wealthy people will be able to charge you more for private education. Your school vouchers won't cover it when the efficiency of the federal government funding schools that already exist is no longer there, because the Department of Education has been shut down, and they harness your general sense of, oh, should things be better? Yes, they should. It's Democrats' fault. It's public education's fault. Just get rid of everything, start from scratch. I'm sure it'll be better. It won't. You will become a sponge for the Republican Party purchasers to squeeze in every facet of your existence. You'll be squeezed with tolls for your roads because federal funding for infrastructure will be reduced. You'll be squeezed for your children's education. You'll be squeezed for finding out what the weather forecast might be. You'll be squeezed for your health care because there won't be any more Affordable Health Care Act acting as a depressive agent on the costs of healthcare or the costs of your medications. Your parents may want to move back in with you because Social Security, guess what, is going to be cut. They'll slash migration and then say, oh dear, the birth rate isn't enough to sustain enough tax to pay for retirement, so we have to cut retirement benefits. We have to cut entitlements. That money isn't guaranteed to anybody if you don't have a government that is interested anymore in helping people, that has where Republican representatives are literally available for purchase by the NRA, by people who own private schools or intend to own more private schools once Trump gets into office or an equivalent gets into office. Do you want to be a sponge for Republican donors to squeeze? Probably not. So let your motivation every day be to enact your civic duty by informing yourself of these issues, Googling Project 2025, just informing yourself of the various Trump failures and crimes and instances of malfeasance, and noting that Kamala Harris has been a success to every elected position that she's held. And it's all been elected positions. She's been elected AG of California, a large populous state with a significant amount of criminality to deal with. And she put policies in place to try and increase school attendance, to try and reduce recidivism, to try and help offenders find a way to make restitution outside of the prison system, and to enroll and get credit for school courses completed. She has had as a guiding value system the interests of the people she serves. And for that reason, I urge you to get behind Kamala Harris, to join into organizing calls where you can, to check your registration and to urge others to do the same. That's a simple and easy thing that's very important, because in a multitude of states, Republicans and conservative organizations are investing time and energy in purging voter rolls. And they don't use accurate information all of the time. They use that as plausible deniability. Oh, we're just trying to purge the rolls of inactive voters who haven't voted in the last election, so they don't really deserve to vote in the next election. Why? People could choose what election they're motivated to vote in. But no, Republicans feel a need to purge the rolls, and that is because they have an interest in purging your democratic rights from your hands, purging your ability to participate in this democracy, to uphold it, to strengthen it, to have a stable, thriving society that you live in. So check your voter registration online. Go to iwillvote.com to find out more about checking your voting status and helping others to do so, even if you've got the energy, if you've got the spoons to volunteer to help get others to the polls. The little conversations we have with each other to say, yes, I'm happy to ride this energy and this enthusiasm for Kamala Harris. I understand that Donald Trump is a traitor to the American people on the likes of which America has not historically seen. Benedict Arnold, take a seat. This man willfully took and retained documents, including national secrets, and stored them in his ballroom, in his bathroom, in places accessed by people who'd just had the cash to buy a membership at Mar-a-Lago. He left top secret classified documents all over his property at Mar-a-Lago, and he lied, and he gave his lawyers false reasons to swear in, to sign their names to documents swearing that everything had been returned to the National Archives that should be under the Presidential Records Act. Trump looks at people's face and lies to them, saying, the Presidential Records Act allows me to take whatever I want, whatever I declassified with my mind. The Presidential Records Act says the opposite. And the Trump form of fascism works by detaching people from verifiable reality, works by telling them the opposite of what is true, and then saying, you'll notice you're hearing something very different from the media. Clearly they're lying, because you can trust me. I was on your television set for years. I'm Donald Trump. You saw me. I'm the epitome of the American dream. I'm the epitome of American business success. So I hope you enjoyed this broadcast. Please feel free to post on my Twitter page, to write to me, to ask me to interview you. I love interviewing people. Recommend my broadcast. I'll be doing this daily because there's only 98 days to the next election. So thank you. Thank you, Jay. I appreciate your presence and your comments. Getting to interact with people is a joy of live broadcasting. I speak off the cuff. I don't have a script, but I have a lot of very fleshed out thoughts. That sounds a little dodgy. I have a lot of intense convictions about how fascism works. I'm the granddaughter of Holocaust survivors, so I've grown up reading novels about how Nazi Germany operated, and have always had that question of how did German citizens allow this to come to pass? And then we've had the answer in front of us for a few years now, which is you generate enthusiasm. You make people feel like heroes. You identify an enemy. You vilify whatever other scapegoated group you want to vilify, and you unite people in that vilification. You get energy, the kind of energy you get from breaking an atom into its component pieces, but instead you're breaking apart social norms and saying, I authorize you to be racist. The things they wouldn't allow you to say, I'm going to say it. Look at me, get some secondhand joy off watching me violate social standards and civilizational norms. I will cheerfully spread division and hatred, and who's going to stop me? Ha ha ha, I'll keep doing it until I'm stopped. And if anybody tries to stop me, I'll say they're rigging, they're cheating, things they've stolen from me. I'll give you a whole heap of grievance to feel special about. You're with me. I'm like your Jesus. They're just doing this to me to get to you. I've been charged with 88 various felony counts because they hate that I care about you. I was convicted by a jury of 43 counts. Is it 43 counts or 44? Let's say 43. And anybody can correct me, who knows. Approximately 40 counts of fraud, felony convictions, because I conspired to deceive the public about my dalliance with a adult film actress whilst just after my third wife had given birth to my Tiffany Donald Trump Jr. fourth child. My wife, Melania Trump, had just given birth to my fourth child, and yet I had a dalliance. I intimidated and sought to make an offer she couldn't refuse to an adult film actress, and then sought to purchase her silence. Because I couldn't raise the money from other people, I got my tough guy, Michael Cohen, lawyer at the time, to take out a second mortgage so he could personally pay the $130,000 to Stormy Daniels, and we could then cover it up by filing fraudulent business documents claiming that this was actually some staggered payments for services rendered, and you're not supposed to fraudulently fill out business documents. You're not supposed to add up extra money to his payments so that he doesn't have to pay tax on what was effectively a loan he took out to pay Stormy Daniels on behalf of Donald Trump. The jury was able to adjudicate Donald Trump to be a fraudster, worthy of conviction. Another jury was able to adjudicate Donald Trump to be someone who sexually assaulted, sexually abused E. Jean Carroll. And she was able to bring her case to trial in a civil court. Multiple other women were motivated to go public with their stories after the public heard Trump's own mouth confess that he felt entitled to grab women as he wished by their most vulnerable areas, most private areas. Grab women by their private parts was Donald Trump's stated motto in the Access Hollywood tapes that were leaked just prior to the election, and which should have lost him the election, but he lost the popular vote, and America has an electoral college system that favors or gives extra heft to the will of white Christian rural voters, unfortunately, because of the way it divides up influence amongst the states. So even though it's not negligible influence, it's significant influence because it can overturn the results of the popular vote. But people were often taught in school that it's a system instituted to protect the little guys. It's not. It's a system instituted to protect the interests of white supremacists who originally wanted to entrench their influence in politics in order to protect the institution of chattel slavery, to protect profiteering from the sale of human beings and their life, liberty, and happiness, and their family intactness. All right, I better go. I've been saying that for a little while. Thank you. Thank you. My name's Davina. This has been Polity with Davina, and I'll tell you the definition of the word polity. If you spell it appropriately, Polity, it is a noun describing a form or process of civil government or constitution. So the civil humanist polity is an example of that word in a phrase. Polity, yeah, there you go. Or polity, another definition, group of people who are collectively united by a self-reflected cohesive force such as identity, who have a capacity to mobilize resources and are organized by some form of institutionalized hierarchy. Whatever. People who want self-governance, people who are capable of organizing to protect and maintain self-governance. That's what polity is about. Polity with Davina is supposed to be gossipy tea relating to the weirdness of the Trump crew who weirdly want to take family planning out of your hands and award it to themselves because they don't want migrants to come and help balance out the demographic pyramid where you're supposed to have larger numbers of workers relative to the numbers of retired older people. But if the birth rate is low, you can fix that problem by allowing the migrants who are attracted to your country's success in the hopes that they themselves can start a successful business or find gainful employment. You let migrants in, you appropriately fund the immigration court system so you can hear people's asylum claims and appropriately vet and assess people's claims. The opposite of what Republicans do. Why am I getting all these messages? Okay. They want women to be forced to have babies rather than allow migrants to remain in this country. They want to create chaos by having camps and deporting millions of people in order to bolster up the egos of those who feel that only they and their families are truly, and people who look like them and belong to their political group, are the true, authentic Americans, and everyone else is undeserving. They want to create chaos in order to make the Germans feel more special than the Jews. Similar, parallel, to make white Republicans feel like, yes, white Jesus is our leader, white Trump is our moral and spiritual leader, and we feel that he's been cleansed of all his crimes. He didn't mean them, or he didn't do them. He's persecuted for us, and we won't pay any attention to all the evidence that he lied about losing the election. He lied to say he won it when he patently didn't. He threw everything he had at 60 different court cases that he lost, even with judges who he had appointed himself. The one judge who was the best purchase he ever made was appointing Judge Eileen Cannon, who threw out the court case against Trump for illegally retaining National Archive documents that belong to the American people, that should have been classified, retained in classified areas, and people with clearance should have been able to go through those documents and distribute them safely. So maybe some in a presidential library, although I cannot imagine what a Donald Trump presidential library will look like. I think after all of his criminal trials actually get to happen, once the 11th Court of Appeals gets to hear Special Prosecutor Jack Smith explain that Judge Eileen Cannon acted incredibly inappropriately when she threw out the case, saying, oh, well, the Supreme Court has just given Trump like immunity for everything, right? So, retroactively, he's got immunity for keeping documents after he left office, because that's protected by presidential immunity. Is the president's like a king above the law, even if he's not president anymore? All of that will hopefully get resolved. The American people will be able to see, in a broader sense, the degree to which Donald Trump surpasses Benedict Arnold in terms of betraying the national interest and the American people as a whole. Benedict Arnold was viewed to be a traitor because he worked with the British. He was a loyalist who betrayed the Revolutionary Army. And he was with the Revolutionary Army, but he swapped allegiances for personal gain. And Donald Trump pretends to have been a leader for the American people and pretends to aspire to lead the American people, but he doesn't. Donald Trump is a carnival barker to open the door to the kind of fascism that will allow every person in the United States to be squeezed to make more profit for the immoral class of billionaires who don't care about your civil rights, who don't care about your legal protections, who don't care if your democracy is functional or not, who prefer it's not because they think your country should be their playground to enact out their ideas on how things should be run. And they usually think women should put out more to men and not be able to say no, not be able to use contraception, not be able to choose not to bear a child if they don't want to. They're like, women should just generally be more dependent. So all of the protections that stop people from firing women if they become pregnant, that'll be gone as well under the force of an administration that is anti-worker rights. Bob says that I can vote in local elections in Massachusetts. Oh, that might be a new thing, actually. I do remember at one point there were. Anyway, I'll look it up. That's just for me, isn't it? Thank you, Bob. I appreciate that. I've had Crystal Mason up on the screen for a while. I will say goodbye to her, and I wish her all the best. And I'll say goodbye to everybody else. Wow, how did I eat my lipstick off that quickly? I started the show wearing lipstick. And I am no longer wearing much lipstick. Yeah. This is how I started off the broadcast. Maybe talking just causes all the top layer to just spray out as I speak. Anyway, take care, everybody. Thank you. Support the rally. Use social media to talk to people, but talk to people in real life as well. Bob is a great example of that. He makes friends with people he comes into contact with every day in all walks of life, and he has conversations with them about what they care about and is able to give them facts, because a great tool of fascism is separating people from being able to listen to factual sources of information. Even now, many in the media have been so corporate captured, so subject to something called working the refs, that they're afraid to give proper weight to Trump's crimes. They'll say alleged about something like Trump's interference in the Georgia vote counting process, when we literally heard Trump's voice on a call recorded by someone when he spoke to Brad Raffensperger, the then Georgia Secretary of State, and he said, "I need you to find me 11,780 more votes," something like that. So listen to that call yourself if you need a refresher on how committed Trump is to his self-interest in opposition to the interests of the voters. He doesn't care about your votes. He wants the Secretary of State to just find him 11,700 more votes, because that's what he needs to get the outcome he wants. Bollocks to you and what you voted for, or what the residents of the citizens of your state voted for. No, just find him, bend things for him. He is the center of the universe according to him, and you are cogs. You are pawns. And your worth lies only in what you can be squeezed for. And that's under Trump. Under Kamala Harris, you're someone who has worth, who's worth getting things passed like the Biden-Harris administration has passed. The Infrastructure Act, the Child Tax Credit Act, which was passed, but Republicans managed to, and together with Joe Manchin, the now independent senator, managed to get that ended. But it was, while it was in place, it lifted millions of American children out of poverty. And that's what we actually want. We don't want to pretend that it's okay to be callous about American children living in poverty. We don't want to pretend that sharing is our real weakness. Sharing is our real strength. We have a great capacity to share, and it generates more for all of us. Our compassion is actually our ability to have a functional, strong society. Need a good catchphrase for ending. Anyway, take care. Check your voting registration. When you do vote, make sure you do more than just tick the presidential election box. Make sure you vote down ballot, because Republicans voters typically tick all the boxes. They understand they need people in power at every level, because it's not just one branch of government. There's 3 branches of federal government, and then there's critical branches of state and local government as well that are key to engendering good outcomes for you, your family, your community. So tick all the boxes. Vote down ballot. And don't participate in something called voter drift. There's some term for it, where people just tick the box they're excited about and leave the rest because they think, oh, well, maybe I'm not well informed enough about that. By now, with the events of the last 8 years or so, you are more informed about how Republicans are anti your interests. And if you're not informed, just inform yourself a little more, and then don't vote for Republicans, and don't let an unticked box help a Republican get into office, because particularly at the local levels, every vote counts, and those elections are won by tiny margins on a regular basis. So value your vote. Ooh, this is a good motto. Value your vote and teach others to vote with you, or hear what they care about. Value your vote and talk with others. Talk with others. Yeah. Fingers crossed for Andy Kim. When does that, is that a special election? Ouch. I was a little bit mad at Andy Kim because he spoke against Biden, but you know what? It all worked out for the best, because Biden was masterful in letting Trump pick a running mate. Seeing the weight of everything that happened, that a Republican 21-year-old was able to try and assassinate Donald Trump, and that was giving him a boost, and that Biden got COVID. Biden was able to use that moment to go, okay, fine, I'll step down, but I am going to endorse my vice president and put her forward as the right candidate for this moment. And that everyone went, yes, we don't want that heat, because some Obama bros from the crooked media pods and things were saying, oh, we'll have an open convention. It's going to be great. Not chaotic at all. We'll be able to find a new candidate. Yes. Andy Kim did that. And look, I'll forgive him if he got behind Kamala quickly. And I'll forgive him anyway, because you know what? We need as many Democrats in office as possible. We need them because even though some Democrats are still corrupt, because Senator Bob Menendez was just found guilty of taking bribes. At scale, Republicans have been purchasable en masse. And you can see how purchasable their loyalty is by the way they were originally. Many of them were happy to condemn Trump after their lives were threatened in the Capitol building by Trump supporters who came armed with many different things, zip ties to hold them hostage, some guns, crutches to beat them with, metal flagpoles, sharpened flagpoles, hockey sticks, etc., that they attacked a defending police force with, and then made egress into the Capitol in order to harm congressmen and women. They were able to see that. Many were able to condemn Trump for very obviously inciting that riot, inciting that attack on the Capitol with the purpose of attacking and defeating American democracy. They were able to say that was bad. And then Kevin McCarthy went down to Mar-a-Lago and posed looking very awkward, slightly sick, for a photo with Donald Trump, and then they all fell into line. So if they were able to memory hole an attack on the Capitol, on the system of American democracy itself, because had they succeeded in delaying that certification of the vote to a greater extent than happened that day, because Nancy Pelosi got everybody back in. They cleaned the poop off the walls and they swept up the shattered glass. Andy Kim helped with that effort, and I give him credit for that. He was picking up garbage and broken things after the Capitol attack. She got everybody back so that they could do that vote late at night, but still on the 6th of January, as stipulated by the Constitution of the United States. Because if it did not happen, it was the intent of Donald Trump's co-conspirators, John Eastman, and what's the other one? John Eastman and the underpants dude. Whatever, the lawyers helping Donald Trump with the legalistic arm of his attempted coup. They intended to make the argument that if one particular process specified by the Constitution, the fact that it had to be on the 6th of January to certify the election results, if that was violated, then they could safely violate some more things. And they could say, oh, well, let's discount some of these election results because they're contested. And they were going to try and enact a provision of the 12th Amendment, which says, where's my Constitution? Which says, so people voted for president, blah, blah, blah. The president of the Senate, which is the vice president, Mike Pence, the president of the Senate shall, in the presence of the Senate and the House of Representatives, open all the certificates, and the votes shall then be counted. The person having the greatest number of votes for president shall be the president, if such number be a majority of the whole number of electors appointed. And if no person have such majority, then from the persons having the highest numbers, not exceeding 3 on the list of those voted for as president, the House of Representatives shall choose immediately by ballot the president. But in choosing the president, the votes shall be taken by states, the representation from each state having 1 vote. Meaning 1 delegate from each state shall choose the president from the House of Representatives. And within the House of Representatives in 2020, Republicans controlled 26 states versus Democrats controlling 24 states. So there would have been 26 Republicans voting for who the president should be, because Joe Biden's election victory would have been put to the side because, oh no, the mob attack violated the provision of the Constitution that says January the 6th is the day to count the votes. So 26 Republicans voting versus 24 Democrats could have seen the election results thrown out in favor of a 12th Amendment choice of Donald Trump for president. And that would have been an unelected second term in office after which Donald Trump doesn't need any more elections. If he's proven himself to be successful in throwing out the results of one democratic election, then he only has to have the appearance of elections going forward, and you can have a managed little democracy like Russia, with a despot like Vladimir Putin in charge, who doesn't care about human rights, who views the people of Russia purely as pawns in sustaining his personal grasp on power. All right, take care. Thanks for listening.